Is it ready to go?
To run.
Okay, I'm going to call this meeting of the Coffee County Planning Commission to order, March the 26th, 2024, at 4:01. I'd like to welcome everybody in the audience. Thank all of you guys for being here. We'll move on to get an approval of the agenda.
So moved.
Got a motion by Ms. Carroll. Do I have a second? Paul seconds.
Could we ask if anybody has an agenda item they'd like for us to address?
We can do that. Does anybody have an agenda item that,
To add?
to add?
Does anybody want to add anything to the agenda? If not,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.
Unanimous, Cindy. We'll move on to public comments. Anybody out there would like to comment on what we're doing today or anything, have anything to add? Yes.
Yeah, y'all were gonna be talking about changing that, 50-foot to 25-foot.
Yes.
And I was gonna pass around a couple of pictures here. This particular property here has 34 feet. It's not an easement, it's actual property. This is the existing house on it. And you can pass that around. I want
Oh.
everybody to see it if you don't mind. But the
Jimmy, would you please use the microphone over there?
Okay.
Thank you.
Yes, sir. But the codes department has told me without 50 foot, you could rebuild that house. But look at that house. That house is beyond repair because it's got 34 feet instead of the 50 foot, which makes absolutely no sense when somebody could build on an acre ground back there and build a brand new house. I researched the Tennessee law, and if you have land that's landlocked, state law states that a judge can grant you up to, not to exceed 25 feet to get access to your property, to run water, utilities, or whatever. And currently, 50 foot, it just doesn't make sense. You're really violating state law.
If you don't mind, I'm going to stop you right now. We're going to have this discussion at the end of the meeting. Do you mind staying and filling us in on that at the end of this meeting? We only have one agenda item.
Okay.
All right, is that okay?
Sure.
All right, thank you very much. Any more public comments? Okay, we're going to move on to the approval of the previous minutes. Does anybody see anything to change in the previous minutes? Or I will take a motion to approve.
Motion to approve.
I've got a motion from Rodney Duncan to approve. Do I have a second?
Second.
Got a second from Dennis. Any comment? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay. We're going to move right along to the site plan for Blue Monarch, map 137, parcel 018-01. Susan? Okay.
So this is a training facility.
Okay. Well, job training is a big part of what we do at Blue Monarch, and in fact, before someone graduates, I teach a 10-week work ethics course, and so it's really great for us to be able to watch how they do in the job, in the workplace, and apply the skills that they've learned, and it's also kind of an experience where it's the first time a lot of times where they're earning an honest wage. and it also gives them an opportunity to build a resume that they can use to get a job. And so, it's been a really successful program, and we have produced some incredible employees. In fact, I don't wish you would mind if I mentioned our new executive director I have with me today, Deanna. She's a graduate of our program and went through that work ethics and the job training. And we've had medical assistants, dental assistants, a pilot, all kinds of really successful employees, because I do believe that it completely changed the way that they thought about the workplace. And like one of the things as an employer for the past 30-something years, it's never made sense to me why the employer is oftentimes the bad guy when the employer is the one signing the check. And so a big part of what we do is change the perspective about that, and I think that it has really increased work ethics. Just overall, they become better employees. And they've also, I guess through the years, because of the way that we've done this, we've been able to employ like right at 100 women, and it's also given them an opportunity to pay off court fines, buy a car, all kinds of things that kind of sets them up, whereas otherwise they might not have been able to get a job at that stage because they had felony charges. So, so that's kind of it in a nutshell. But we really wanted to establish a better space where we can do that. But if I were you, I think my first question would be, why didn't you bring this up a few months ago? So, and the truth is, we didn't know. Someone just generously gave us the money to build this building, and it was after we had been here earlier. So that's it in a nutshell.
May I ask our codes and zoning enforcement officer, what is the staff recommendation on this?
Approved.
Approved, okay.
And they're in need of space. They really are crowded. I've been there, and it's a full house.
I go there every day. It's an amazing place.
It really is.
Thank you very much.
I'd like to move to approve this site plan.
Thank you, Dennis.
I'd
I
like to
have a-
second it.
I have a motion and a second from Dennis. Made the motion to approve. Rodney made the motion to second. Is there any more discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Oppose? Some unanimous. Thank y'all.
Thank you for all y'all do.
Yeah, y'all do a great
Yeah.
job.
This thing,
It is a wonderful program.
Thank you.
my foot keeps in this thing. I'm fat. And the chair can't-
I've moved it from
She's laughing because I've hit it twice. My foot hits that button and down I go.
You can't go any lower.
All right, we are going to move on to the zoning resolution conversation about zoning resolution change from the easements from access from 50 to 25 feet. I'm gonna let you come back up if you don't mind, and I'm sorry that I've interrupted you,
No,
but
I haven't been to one of these in a long time. I wasn't sure how it worked. I thought,
you didn't know how to get here though, did
What's his
I
name?
did.
you? Okay.
Yeah, I come here and y'all came for one.
Oh, yeah, that's Steve's dad.
Now, if you look at that picture that I passed around there, I don't know what happened to it, but these people have this lot and they wanna sell it. Well, the codes department tells me they can't do nothing with it. I mean, it's a useless lot. We could fix that house there up and sell it, but that house, you know, it's fallen in. It looks like Herman Munster lived there 400 years ago.
Yeah, they could rebuild that house.
Yeah, but we don't wanna rebuild that house.
I mean, you wanna build a bigger house.
Structurally, that
No,
house
not,
is not
no,
repairable.
I mean, you could tear this down and build this house back there, a new house.
Well, they told me that the codes, the guy said that you could not build it because
No, you
it didn't meet the 50-foot set or
But this
criteria.
is grandfathered and it's still
That's
existing.
what I thought.
Yeah, it's still existing. You can build that house there.
Does that have to be that exact house?
Or, yeah, something similar to that size there. I don't know the situation. You'd have to call me and we can look at the situation.
But I talked to your guy in codes and he said no. He said you can go see the mayor or whoever you want to. No.
Like I said, you can call me. You're welcome to call me tomorrow. We can look at it, but I believe in
What I'm saying
place is not
is-
livable, then people need a good place to live. So you can rebuild that house.
We would not wanna rebuild that. We would wanna tear it down and sell it as vacant lot. It's a beautiful,
Oh, okay.
beautiful lot.
You want to tear it down and sell the lot. I got you.
Yeah.
Is that okay,
See,
Terry?
well, now you're talking about two different
Yeah.
situations.
And
That-
see,
That's
that's
probably
what-
what the question was to start with.
But what we're running into is you've got a state law. If you've got landlocked property, the state law says, and I've got it right here if you guys wanna read it,
We've had it repeated.
We
to
know,
us.
we
But-
know it.
not to exceed 25 feet. So when you're saying the county ordinance is 50 feet,
The state law is there to protect the landowner that you go across, so you don't injure that landowner any more than possible.
exactly, but
Okay.
by the same token, you can run your water and electric on that 25-foot easement to go.
40, according to Duck River.
Well, according to the state, the judge cannot exceed 25 feet.
Is this not a lot of record situation where he could apply for the variance and go through that process?
Like I say.
I want to clarify the problem. Jimmy, do you not have 50-foot abutting the public highway? Is that the
We
problem?
got 34 feet. about-
35, okay, 34 feet
Let me
abutting.
Let me ask you all this. Your average road out here, just say Asbury Road, how wide is it? It's not over 20 feet wide. I mean, what is the problem with a
You take in the,
25?
we had Mr. Bartlett here at the last meeting. He can't accept a road less than 50 feet
Why?
because it's a state law.
It's a state law.
Comes right down from the state.
But
You
that's if
check
you
with
wanna,
Benton if you want to, Jimmy.
but that's if
what-
you wanna turn it into a county road.
That's
That has
yeah,
nothing to
we're
do with
talking
making it a
about
driveway. If you wanna make it a driveway, you're not gonna give it to the county anyways, so it has
Well,
nothing to
the
do
drive,
with
we're
that.
talking about the driveway is a little different.
Yeah, but that's what the
That's what I'm
50-foot
talking
easement
about,
is
a
for a
driveway.
driveway.
I'm talking about a driveway.
They're
to
not
access-
wanting to turn it over to the county, they're just wanting a driveway back to a home.
Yeah. And I think, that's what I was talking about on this 50-foot access. I mean, that's for individual property.
So the lot itself doesn't have 50-foot of road
It's
frontage.
got 34 feet.
It's a flag lot, I guess.
Well, it's.
What size is the property, the
it's
parcel?
over About 1.04 acres.
So you're beyond the 8/10 of an acre.
Yeah,
And can you meet setbacks for the size of the house you want?
absolutely.
I don't think you have a problem getting that, done.
I know, but.
Like Kurt just said, you can build a house back on that property. You can destroy that one,
Can I
remove the debris, and build back a house that meets our current setbacks.
But we-
Did I say that right, Kurt?
And if he cleans the lot off, he can't turn around and rebuild back if he sells it, can he?
I mean, I think if he called the office, what he was saying, he probably described a different situation.
No, I took it all
What
up there to.
he said a minute ago,
Mm.
going and being real estate and going and clearing a lot off to sell a blank piece of property that might sell tomorrow or might sell next year, whatever, maybe he's got it sold. We're talking about two different scenarios here. I take a building and assuming this is livable, when you grandfather something in, if a house is destroyed by fire or whatever within a year, you can put it back. I treat this the same way. If it's not livable, if you tear it down and put one back within the year, you can do that. Absolutely. So, yeah, you can put a house back there.
But my question, I guess, because I run into this quite often, I mean, this is not the only one that's happened to. You know, I had a guy dying of cancer, and his lot, it was 50 foot, and then when it went back to an area where it was 38 feet, and then he had 17 acres behind it. You know, he was gonna take that and cut it into a couple of 5-acre tracts, you know, and pay off his wife's cancer bills. But he couldn't do it because he didn't have 50 foot all the way back. just, to me, 25 feet should be sufficient for a driveway.
Before they passed this rule, my aunt bought property here in Coffee County. It had a 30-foot easement that went all the way back to 7 acres. And she built a very nice 3-story house back there and had no problem with electric or water or anything. And she should have been able to do that. Under current rules, she
It wouldn't
can't.
have been.
She could not, she would have had to wasted the 7 acres she bought.
I just don't understand why, I mean, 50 foot is like an interstate highway.
I agree.
We don't need that for a driveway.
I agree. You know, if it's a road that may be donated to the county, I agree it should be 50
Yeah,
foot.
I
But
agree
if it's
there
a
too,
driveway to a private
1000%.
residence, it doesn't need to be as wide as a highway.
Can y'all explain to me why you would want a driveway 50 foot wide?
You're not gonna build a driveway except 50 foot wide.
No, but I mean, why, if the driveway is access to your house?
It's to protect the adjacent
If
property.
you're, you know, if you're talking about access to a house, that's one thing. But so many times we get situations where they go back to 7 acres and they wanna put 5 lots.
Yeah, I can understand that.
And on a 25-foot right of way, that just doesn't. we
I
wanna
don't
go-
think we
want-
would, I don't mean to interrupt, but I
Go
don't
ahead.
think we would ever approve a subdivision, even a minor subdivision, based on an easement.
That's right.
Right.
Okay, so an easement, we've got a good language in our zoning
We do.
resolution that says easement is to access one parcel. And I don't feel like we need to change that
No.
language. I just think the 50-foot is excessive. Is regarding public highway, it takes a 50-foot right-of-way to build a
County road.
county road that now would have to have 12-foot traffic lanes, which would be a 24-foot for the pavement and shoulder and
ditch.
ditching. It takes 50 foot to do a public highway. But just to access a parcel that a father, mother wants to give to their kids, you know, 1 acre, 2 acres and go through that. Regarding the subject that I've brought up and Jimmy here has brought up regarding the court system cannot grant 25 feet 6 inches. They can only grant 25, and the rebuttal is that's to protect and do the least amount of damage to the person having to give the,
And that has to be on the
which I
land-
feel
that has
like
to be on-
we are imposing the same punishment on the person that wants to give the easement by our own zoning
And
resolution.
that's a piece of landlocked property. Let's not forget that. That's landlocked property. That's not property that already has access.
But see, in this case here, you know, and I know what you're saying, but I know what I was told at the codes department by your guy, and that ain't the first time we've run into this. I mean, if you've gotta have 50 foot to get back to some land, you make that land there is useless. I mean, you could have a house on there. and you
It
could
might
bring
as well
in
be
tax-
landlocked.
You could bring in tax revenue for the house and make somebody a nice home, and it would be useful. Right now, it is useless.
Well, let's just go with the landlocked thing. The court gives them 25 feet to get
Yeah.
back to their land, and then Coffee County goes, well, you can't use it, so you might as well stay landlocked because we're not gonna let you do anything with it because we want 50 feet for you to do anything with it. If the court says 25 feet's big enough to do something with it, we should agree with the court and say 25 feet, landlocked or not, because anything less than 50 feet might as well be landlocked, the way we
Not
got
only
the
the
rules.
court, but that's, I mean, it's a state law.
That is interesting. I don't know how often that would happen, that somebody has to. I'm pretty sure it happened in Pelham, by a piece of property I looked at that was landlocked. And I now see a home's been built on it and a little driveway goes all the way back up there to it. So I'm thinking they had to take a legal recourse to get access to it. But Kurt, how do you think you would handle that if somebody came to you, they had just got a positive result in a court of law where the judge could only grant 25 feet, but they came to you and said, we want a building permit, and I have a 25-foot easement. How would you do that?
I've never had that happen.
Yeah, I just wonder, that it's a scenario.
I would probably see if the judge just gave them access to their property.
Here,
Uh-huh.
it's a state
Or
law.
I've got it.
stated that he could build a house on
I've read
that
it.
property. I mean, I don't know, it's never happened, so I don't.
It's curiosity for me.
But
I missed the last half of your question. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I missed the last half of your question. Would you repeat that, please?
If an individual came to Kurt's office wanting a building permit to construct a house on a parcel of land where he was just successful in a court of law being granted a 25-foot access easement. Access and utilities are totally different.
That's
Everybody
right.
should understand that. We have
That's right.
utilities run through the middle of cornfields. So this access easement, 25 foot, what would Kurt do? Would he issue the building permit based upon the judge in a court of law had granted him the maximum 25 feet?
What was your answer?
I've never had that situation happen, so I don't know.
Since our zoning resolution says it must be 50 foot, it'd be quite a conflict. Now, I would think that Kurt would probably have to quote that number and say, I can't grant you a building permit.
I would think, and
And then the individual go back to court and tell the judge what happened.
this is off the top of my head because we just dealt with a lot of record with the Board of Zoning, well, you're on the Board of Zoning Appeals, where they had a 25-foot easement. Kurt and the Codes Department turned them down as they're supposed to, and they went before the Board of Zoning Appeals, and the Board of Zoning Appeals granted them a building permit.
Right.
Where we get into a problem is if everybody has the best intentions, we're only gonna build one house back there. But then all of a sudden, you get somebody else,
bunch
and
of
somebody
houses.
else, and somebody else, and somebody else, and we have too many subdivisions.
We're not gonna allow that to happen on an
Okay.
easement.
In the paper.
On an easement. Now, if you're selling property where you own the right of way to get back to it, that's a different
Yeah,
story.
if you're selling property, your best thing to do is sell a 50-foot easement back to it.
They was sell the property.
Right.
Then a public highway can be built on it. Then Benton's gonna have another road to take care of that he don't need. So I feel like it's a prevention factor of Benton being overloaded with streets in the future, or whoever becomes superintendent of Coffee County Highways. If
Well,
a
that
25-foot
road
easement
will
would stop
never-
it.
That road will have to be, there would have to be a private contract to take care of that road, correct?
Not if he
the
builds
county's-
it to county
If it's a
standards.
driveway to
But if he can build it to county standards, but if Benton doesn't wanna take that road, and he can't take a road less than 50 feet, which is what he said when he was in here last time, where are you there?
I don't think I said you would not build a road less than 50 feet with the
Right.
intention of turning it over to Coffee County.
Right, Coffee County can't take
But with
that.
our 50-foot easement, a county compliant road could be built on a 50-foot easement. That's my point.
Yeah, but that's already in there. We've already got that in the zoning resolution. Right,
Right, but Benton don't need more roads to take care of.
so what
We would prevent that
what
from
we wanna
happening
do
with a
is
25
go
foot.
backward in time. And that's what we're saying. We're gonna go sideways
No, I
or
would say let's
backwards.
move forward. Let's move forward and have it available to individuals. Actually, we need to have more individuals from the audience speak if it's,
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Nick, you're prepared. Anybody else would like to speak on this particular topic? Jimmy, is it okay if we go to the next speaker?
Yeah, that's fine, I'll just.
We understand. We appreciate you coming. We really do. Thank you very much for coming. And
I just really, nobody's answered the question other than protecting the neighboring landowner, the 50-foot deal, but if state law says 25 feet's enough for your private driveway to get. back
doesn't
to
say
your
that.
land.
It says the judge may grant 25
Up to
feet.
25
Up
feet.
to 25 feet. That's there for one
But, you know-
purpose. That's there to protect the landowner that you are going across. That's what that's there.
Kurt wasn't there that day, but when you go up there and you've got these people that have a beautiful lot, over an acre, and it's got 34 feet of road frontage, and there's been a house there for years, and
How many years has that house been there?
probably 100 years. I mean, it is ready to fall in.
So you wanna sell that lot?
We want to sell that lot.
You don't wanna build back anything?
Whoever we sell it to will build a
Build.
nice house back there, because it's a beautiful lot, like I said.
And you have how many acres?
It's 1
Total.
acre, a little over an acre, and it's got the best soil in the county.
How far is it off the road, Jimmy?
It's off the road, maybe, let's say, I've got a plat here of it. Right here is where it's drawn out. It's off the road 272 feet to right there.
Okay.
And back here. But, I mean, if you have to, and your guy did tell me that he couldn't build it back. He said you could rebuild that house, which is next to impossible. And I'm not trying to be hard to get along with, but this situation happens more often than, where somebody's got 30 feet or 28 feet or 42 feet, But I just don't understand. I understand if you were making somebody have 50 foot, but if it's already existing and they've got 30 feet, I don't know why you would have to have 50 feet.
You know when?
You don't need an interstate driveway to go to your house.
When was it done?
I'd like to say that I think, Jimmy, your problem is not really an easement. You don't have 50 foot
I don't have 50
abutting
feet.
the public highway,
You've
correct?
got 34 feet.
Yes, that's a
Right there.
different problem than what I wanna try to fix. You don't need an easement. You don't
Well,
need an easement.
but
Your
what's on the
property
agenda-
abuts a public highway. All he needs to do is come before the BZA to grant a variance to
That's right.
allow
But
Yeah.
it's,
that to
Exactly,
be
that's
built.
what I said a while ago.
but why would somebody have to pay $300 to come up here and for y'all to get to me? To say, okay, I mean,
It's better than the alternative.
but this resolution is easement or access. I mean, I thought access was to the 41 highway.
Yeah,
And
we-
I'm not trying to be hard to get along with, I mean, but
Well, me and you are on the same page when it comes to the easement issue, but I don't think you, with that parcel, have an easement
Easement.
problem.
Right.
we've got an access problem.
That's
And
correct.
they're saying
It
it's
does
gotta
not
have-
abut a public highway 50 feet, and
Right.
that's what our rules say. But we will, I'm gonna say, it's hard to say what the BZA will do, okay, let's not go there. But we have historically granted a variance for that very issue because that parcel is a lot of record. Correct? That's a lot of record.
Correct.
Right.
But you go to sell it, who's gonna buy it with the possibility that whoever
Get-
buys it,
Get the variance first, because variances stay with the property
Property.
forever.
That's correct.
I don't know why a person would need to give 50 feet to their kid to have a driveway back to
Yeah,
their house.
that's
Even if
another
easement
problem.
or on the property, either way, why they need to give away 50 feet of road frontage just for their kid to build a house on their property. You
Well,
don't need
there
it
you-
to build one residence.
There you go. That's a good, some of these things are nobody's fault. If you come into this county now to buy property and you don't do your homework and you don't do your due diligence, then we can't help you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying that situation's like that.
And what I'm saying is, a person right now doing their homework and looking at it shouldn't have to give away 50 foot of road frontage for their kid to get a driveway to build a house, a lot on their land. I own 115 acres, but I don't wanna give up 50 feet of road frontage to give my daughter an acre to put a house on. She don't need 25 foot to get a driveway to her house. That's a ridiculous amount of road
Well,
frontage
I
to give
just
up
did it,
for
I
a
just did it
resident.
twice for my kids,
Yeah,
so
well,
there you go.
But it doesn't make it right.
It doesn't make it right, doesn't make it wrong, but
But
it
that means
does
we
go
can
by the
fix it.
code, it does go by the code's book.
But the codes book changed on people. Some people already had theirs, and the rules have changed since they owned it.
This was grandfather, I mean, these people have been on this generation after generation.
And just because it's in the code book, don't mean the code book can't be changed.
Well,
because
that's
not
what we're
something-
discussing
yeah.
right now, Rodney. That's what we're discussing right now. Now, I didn't understand, you didn't say anything when you first came up here and started talking about that being a grandfathered in lot. That brings about a whole, just what Dennis was telling you. That's a whole different deal.
I want you to state one more time, why does TCA say a judge cannot grant more than a 25-foot easement? What you feel like is the reason
The
for
reason I think that it's written like that, we're talking about landlocked property where you have to go in to court. If you can't get somebody to sell you an easement or grant you an easement, you go to court. The 25-foot, in my opinion, is to limit the damage to the person that you're crossing. And that easement is just for access. It's just an accessing easement. That's why I think that law's in the books.
But our zoning resolution says that has to be double, so we're going to punish or take away more than that from
But
that
we're not
property
going to
owner.
court to grant this. You don't have to go to court to get that. You know, if you're buying a piece of property out here and you need to buy 50 foot, 50 foot times a mile is 6 acres. Times a quarter of a mile, it's an acre and a half, okay? If you can't spend the money for that acre and a half to get access to that property, that you can do almost anything you want with it, then maybe you need to look at another option. That's my opinion personally.
Our zoning resolution punishes the landowner granting the easement, whether it's by choice, landlocked or not landlocked. I mean, you can parcel off, give your kid 2 acres of ground back there and deed it to them with nothing. But then you get into these man-made situations and all that. The landlocked would probably be, I'd say it don't happen a lot.
It doesn't happen very much.
I don't think it happens a lot.
It does not happen very
But the
much.
fact that TCA, in their knowledge, I would say, or compassion, that we don't possess, say 25 foot's all you need to have. And it is, 25 feet is all anybody needs to go to one parcel property. Benton Bartlett says 90% of the culverts he puts in for driveway connections are 20 feet.
Benton also says that a county road has to be 50 feet.
We're not
you
even
wanna
talking
give it-
No,
about
I'm
a
not-
county road.
just
We
talking
are
about
not
driveway.
talking about a
If you-
county
If you've
road.
watched the situation in this county, year after year after year, we get in trouble with this or have in the past all the time. Somebody, look at some other counties. You're one to always point to these other counties. Look at some of these other counties and check at what they've done and see if you think see if it looks good. See if it looks right. You know, I'm only 1 to 7.
You have to look at what their easements allow. A lot of counties, I think, Nick, I don't know, you're wanting to speak, Nick? We're taking a lot of time.
I'd like to see Nick come up here and
Yeah,
speak.
we're taking a lot of time. Among us, and I think there's people here
Nick
that
don't
got
want
stuff
it
they
that
wanna
fight.
say.
Well, to get to a couple of things, like Jimmy's situation, I think Dennis has hit the nail on the head. Like, that's not an easement situation. That's clearly a lot of record, you know? I mean, personally, my opinion is that should be maybe more streamlined, where if, you know, the planner can look at it and say, yeah, this deed's been in place since 1975, like, clearly it's a lot of record, you know, to be able to save the people the trouble of having to get denied and then go get a variance and then come back and get the building permit. I mean, you know, I feel like that could be streamlined, but I agree with you 100% that at least that there's a path forward at that point where if you do have a lot of record and you can get the variance, then you can build on that property. And I think that's way better than not being able to use the property at all. I guess, answer, you know, what you had said earlier, Rodney, about, you know, the 25 feet. I think one thing that I had pointed out before was I took a 5 acre, I don't know if you remember that thing on Lakewood Park
I do.
Road. I took the 5 acre things, I split that
I
into
did.
66 lots without having to put one road or do any of that stuff in.
Without
And
any
I-
county expense, no road expense, no road upkeep, no road maintenance,
Well, that
any,
wouldn't be at the county's expense anyway.
I know that's what I'm
The
saying.
developer that would have to build
right.
that.
And then the owner of the house would have to keep up their own roads and their own driveways, correct? So it'd be no county expense for
You'd
the
have to get-
driveways
you'd
and the
have to get
roads.
66 people to sign an agreement that that road will be.
No, it's just a personal driveway.
Well, it'd still just be 2 people because we're still operating under the premises that the easement only crosses one tract of land and it only accesses one tract of
So
land.
it's, each one's a personal driveway.
So if the 50-foot road frontage requirement stays the same, then somebody could take it and split a 50-foot flag lot off of it and run 2 25-foot easements up that and create, you know, 3 or 4 more lots.
But what's
by
wrong with a
doing that.
flag lot?
Um,
Some people like them.
that's
We're
true.
not here to represent 7 people, we're here to represent 50,000. And some people like that. I don't, I live in the country. I don't like having a
I
neighbor.
would live in that.
But my wife would live in that in 2.2 seconds. She likes to be able to pass coffee out a window, and that's, we gotta represent everybody and everybody's rights, and everybody's right to a house, and everybody's affordable right to a house. And for the county citizens, that's the best option, because it puts 66 tax-paying houses on 60 acres instead of spread out all over the whole county, without any road maintenance whatsoever.
Well, I think the issue in this lies that you've got 66 lots with no infrastructure improvement, no drainage accounted for, no
The
nothing.
developer's gonna have to do that, or he'll be in trouble.
No. What
Who's
you're
gonna
saying,
monitor
Yeah.
that?
the builder right now would be within his right to buy all of these 5 acre tracts. And right now, he could sell every other one of them to his cousin. And he could come in and do minor divisions on every one of them. And this would not be a major subdivision. It would be like 15 minor subdivisions.
Okay?
So you'd still wind up in the same spot with no drainage, you know, no water lines being built, no.
The
no
water lines would be run
infrastructure.
from the road. Yeah, I'd run my own personal water line, like my parents ran 1,200 feet of water line to get to their place. So, I mean, each one of those places would run their own personal water line.
Yeah, but it's not good to have.
Without us having to keep up with it.
66 lots without accounting for some of this other stuff. Like, and I get it, I'm pro-development, I'm an advocate for the developer, and I get paid by the lot. So if you want to chop this thing into 66 lots, I will do it for you. But I'm just saying, like, to me, this isn't as ideal of a situation as if you want 66 lots, like, at that point, you may need to consider
Can I-
putting in a road.
I hate to interrupt, but I do have a question because there's no dimensions on here. Take your finger and draw out a 5 acre lot on that for me. What was? Is that 4 of those?
The 5 acres would be,
Oh, okay, I got you now.
Down and up,
I get looking at it from above. It looks terrifying.
yeah. It is.
But if you're driving down the road, you just see the houses along the road. And all you
Alright.
see is a lot of
Now-
driveways going back to other houses that you probably wouldn't even see.
Now, I've got another question. What is the width of that lot? It's still
believe-
150 foot wide, right?
I believe these were
Lot
like
line to lot
175.
line.
It was 175, something like that. So when you take out the 50 foot here, you still
125.
have a 125
So
wide.
you can't build on a 125 lot.
Yeah, you can.
No, you can't. It has to be 150. We just discussed it today.
125 at an acre, anything, if it's 2 acres and up, it's 150 feet at building setback. It's 100 feet at 8/10. So it changes. It's
100 feet wide lot at
at
18.
building setback.
Okay.
At 8/10 of an acre, at an acre up to 2, it's 125, and at 2 and up, it's 150.
You could take this same 66, what was it, 60 acres? Or how many acres was this parcel that you used
Well,
for
he said it
this
was
scenario?
66 lots an acre each.
It's, well, it's roughly that, so it was probably 60.
All right. Right now, you could do the very same thing, move every one of these dotted lines over and call them 50-foot easements, and you would probably lose 6 lots.
No, you would lose about a third.
You think?
Because right now I've got these split into 4. Really, you could get 5 out of it. Like if you're doing 25-foot easements, I could get 5 lots out of that. I just did 4 because that's what you could do and keep it under the minor subregs,
Yeah.
which is what every developer is gonna ask me to do.
And you're assuming that he can get septic on all of them too.
Yeah,
Of
you
course,
could.
that's
You
contingent
could
on
never
that.
do
No,
that.
this is like the
Yeah.
nightmare scenario that none of this would probably play out maybe once ever, even if possible to play out. Definitely not out there.
Well, yeah, that's.
Yeah, you had
that's-
trouble getting septic on the 5 acre.
Yeah.
You know,
No,
that's a
like-
scenario that has probably 1 in a million chances of happening in
Happening.
Coffee County, Tennessee.
I disagree.
1
I
in a
disagree,
million.
Because if you've got a tract of land with good soil, that's gonna be what they
Well,
ask
if
you
it's
to
got
do.
good soil, then it solves a
Yeah.
lot of those other problems too.
They've done it in Murfreesboro, I bet.
Yeah, and over years' time, that would be a big
Nightmare.
mess. That's
It'd be a
terrible.
nightmare.
There's no drainage, there's no nothing. You're from Tullahoma, you hear all the problems with drainage. Imagine something like that where nobody
I'm
has
not
to.
from Tullahoma, I live in Normandy. Let's just get that.
Did you used to work in Tullahoma?
I work in Tullahoma as a UPS man,
I thought you used to work in Tullahoma.
as a UPS man.
So, anyway, that's terrible. That's it. If you want growth, good growth. You don't want bad growth. That would be a disaster. And everybody would be complaining big time because there's no drainage. That's why when you get to a major subdivision, you have to get an engineer to design for drainage and all that. And they would get around it that way. Absolutely, they would. Nicholas is right.
How long would that take, you think?
To split it like that, I
Hmm,
mean, what if it took 3 or 4 years?
yeah.
But
The-
it wouldn't have to. I'm saying they could buy it, they could sell every other lot, and then they could come in with minor divisions for each lot, and legally y'all would have to let them. Because if it's different owners and they're not touching, you know, that's the way the book reads.
I'm willing to live with that for people to have the right to give their kid a dadgum acre of land and 25 foot of road frontage to go build a house on it. I'm not gonna take everybody else's in this county's rights and privileges away for land they've bought and raised and paid for over the 1 in a million possible scary scenario that's on a sheet of paper.
Well, I mean, something else to, you know, maybe consider, in Rutherford, they allow for a 25-foot strip, but you still gotta have 50 foot of frontage on it. So I think it would, you know, that scenario would prevent this. It would still allow you to neck down to 25 feet, but you still gotta come off 50
I think
feet
I
of
made
frontage.
that statement when this subject first came up, that I felt like we should retain the 50-foot public road, abutment, but allow a 25-foot on it, a single 25-foot.
See, that's kind of the way the city of Manchester does it, like you've gotta have that 50 foot, but they'll allow you to neck down to 30. But you still gotta have that.
I mean, I don't know why we couldn't change it to 40. You know, anything less than the requirements for a public highway. You know, I just feel like when you put that 50-foot in there, one of these days, somebody might come up with a bunch of money. This 2,000 acres that's right back here, and this one 50-foot easement going back across there could allow them to develop a subdivision on an easement access, which I don't know that we have anything in this zoning resolution that would prevent that. And if we did anything to reduce the 50-foot to where a public street could not be built on it, I'd be in favor of it. That's one of my biggest problems with the current 50-foot number. 'Cause that's exactly the width that's required to build a public highway in Coffee County.
It was like, again, My dad owned the tract of land, I owned the tract of land. He built here, I built here, and my aunt wanted to move here, my mother's sister. I gave her 30 feet of road frontage right down mine and my dad's property line. It went back and opened into a pie-shaped 7 acres. And she went back there and put a phenomenal house back there. And you should be able to do that. And you don't need 50 feet of road frontage. I didn't want to give up 50 feet of my road frontage, but I was willing to give up 30. And she was able to get power, water, the fire department can get back there. There's no reason not to let people do that.
Well, you still would have to have an additional easement for power, but.
You
yeah,
can run it underground.
You could
You
fit
don't
that-
need
Well, that
40 feet to
requires,
run it
that
underground.
takes an easement, cause they gotta be able to access it.
Yeah, I just
They gotta
signed
have
one. It's
access,
40,
yeah.
it's 40,
Yeah.
Duck River requires
Even for
40.
That can be anywhere, you know, and if
But-
Duck River comes in and says, we can't put one through there, whatever, then they're the ones that throw the roadblock up, not
Not
us.
us.
That's the way I look at it.
But also, when they came and did it, she didn't run it underground. They connected to the pole beside her and then paid the person beside her what they had spent running poles back, split it in half. Gave them half their money back. That's what Duck River does. You spend money running the pole out, if somebody joins to it, they have to give half the money back to the person that spent the money running it out, or at least it's what they did when she built.
Well, while we're talking about changes, I mean, I think another option that I had discussed at the last meeting that I think could help some of these issues, it would help relieve people trying to build county roads and all that, is to, like I was saying before, allow for multiple parcels on one easement, provided they're 5 acres or larger. Large acre, you know, large tract subdivisions, similar to the way they do in Williamson County, similar to the way they do in Rutherford. I mean, there's already working models where this happens to prevent stuff like what Cindy's got up there, you know.
Isn't there a state limit you can put on an easement of houses though?
What's that?
Isn't there a state limit, the number of houses you can put on a 50-foot, even on a 50-foot easement?
It's apparently, not less than 5.
I
That's,
don't think so.
See, of course, like, you know, you get situations like that, you know, that's what our current requirement makes people do that have plenty of acreage, but not a lot of road frontage, like you were describing, the ice cream cone type situation, you know, that you get this type of stuff. You get this type of stuff. And it meets the requirement, doesn't make a lot of sense, it could be cleaned up. Now, another thing, you know, getting to the 25 foot, you know, we keep bringing up this land of the Burkses that was up on Jernigan's Branch Road, and he's got acres cut off, and there's 1, 2, 3, 4 easements crossing this guy's property. And, overlapping, I mean, it's a nightmare. And so I understand Dennis's point of view in that, well, if it was 25 feet, then he could put more easements in here and he could cut off more lots for more kids. But to me, I feel like that makes the problem worse by allowing 25 feet. Well, then you're gonna have 6 easements crossing through, going back to here, where it could be cleaner, in my opinion, that, you know, he might not be able to carve 1 or 2 acre tracts off, he might have to carve 5 acre tracts off for his kids. But a 5 acre tract doesn't have, in my opinion, like a negative impact to a neighbor as much as, say, 5 1 acre lots would. You know,
Right.
bigger tracts with a big nice house, I mean, that's not, I don't see that as a negative.
makes it awful expensive for the average Joe to be able to afford 5 acres and put a big nice house on it though.
Yeah, but I mean, if
I
a
mean,
building lot's
yeah, who
going
can
for
afford
60 or
5 acres in Coffee
75,000,
County
Got lots of
anymore?
options on where to go, so I mean.
Yeah, who's got 5
That's-
acres, can afford 5 acres in this county anymore?
That's one you brought here that did not get approved, right?
They applied for a variance to, I think, use this existing road, and they were denied, so they put in another
All those.
easement.
I don't think we approved this because you had an easement crossing an easement.
No, Larry approved it.
He did.
He sure did. This is existing. This isn't proposed.
This one is?
This is existing,
Okay. Huh.
yeah.
That lady is not a family member, and she had a real problem with the road.
Oh,
That's
yeah,
why I
yeah,
don't like
yeah.
3 or 4 parcels on one easement, because then you run into the headache of maintaining a common use road.
Okay, well, so,
Right, and if you
that's,
sell it to somebody.
well, that's why, you know, in Rutherford, if you're gonna do or in, Williamson, if you're gonna do one of these large lot subdivisions, it has to be approved before the commission. And if y'all see fit to make them put in place a maintenance agreement in order for approval of that division, then that's y'all's discretion. You can make them put a maintenance agreement in there. The take home of it though is that it's not the county's problem. You're getting large tracts of land, you're preventing this type of stuff, and you're encouraging larger tracts to be developed, and it's still not the county's issue for maintenance.
I personally don't have a problem with all this. Every one of these parcels are using this one road. But, as you pointed out, this imaginary line drawn across there as an easement is theirs to use if it ever comes down to it. They're gonna have to, if whatever happens with the common driveway that everybody uses, if something happens where they can't use it, they do have the property to build their driveway on.
Yeah, but I guarantee half of these are not in an area where you could ever construct a road. I mean, I see
There's
that
no
frequently.
place in the world you can't construct a road.
Says the guy that owns the crane business.
Okay.
But that is true. He is right. He's right about that.
Bridge across a gorge to be able to
Is
use
it
it.
practical? No.
No, could you afford it?
But you would think that that's a better scenario than that right there. That one, like people sharing a drive that are responsible for their own drive.
Well,
is better
us
than
trying to
that.
tell them, you're just setting them up to have to sue each other in the process.
But that's
what I
nothing you're
think.
ever gonna see past the time that you give the approval.
Yeah.
If they've got a problem with it, if they got a slacker that's not wanting to pay, well, they know what they bought into. You like, the maintenance issue is not for, you know, just you, it's you're also buying into the situation like, hey, I'm aware that we might have to take a slacker to court if he doesn't wanna hold up his end of the bargain. It's something you buy into, but it's a choice, like you were saying. You know, it's at least providing the option. Whereas there's a lot of land in Beech Grove right now that is just flat out unusable, and there could be a lot of nice tracks on it. I mean, like that Heritage Hill Lane one that everybody was kind of bringing up, you know? How many of those family members have come back hollering about that road? Nobody.
Right.
You know, and there's 5 people using that road, and nobody's hollering
I
about
don't
it.
have a problem with it. I just don't think, I think 5 acres is too much.
Well, to me, if it's under 5 acres, then it's subject to the planning commission. I mean, to me, that's what separates a tract from a lot. And to me, where it would make more sense to allow multiple parcels. And of course, you look at Franklin County, and like I said, some people see this as a positive, some people see it as a negative, but in Franklin County, you can access up to 4 parcels off of one 30-foot right-of-way.
A 30-foot right of way,
Because
didn't
one
need
of-
50.
One of them can own it, and then there can be an easement across that to access up to 3.
3 more,
So 4 total can
and
access.
where is this?
Franklin County. I mean, obviously developers like that a lot, but some people look at it as it kind of creates little villages and little future hoods, as it were, you know?
Go for it. It could be really nice neighborhoods.
You're exactly right. Could be exclusive.
I think,
I mean,
Yeah.
I actually think the 30-foot would cure all of the issues that we've had in the past.
I'd personally rather put 10 houses on 10 acres than 10 houses on 50.
Probably gonna happen.
Cause it would look more country. There was 40 of it left
Yeah.
country, and you just stack the houses in 10. It leaves me 40 acres of country. I don't wanna
But
spread
it
them out. I
won't
don't want
stay
every 5
country.
acres in Coffee County to have a house on it. I want it to stay looking rural, so if there's so many people gonna come, I'd prefer them to take a more economical answer and stack them up. Prefer them to move to the city.
They're not gonna stop at that.
I mean, the way 5
Yeah.
acres is getting so expensive though.
But yeah, you're right. The growth is coming.
Yes.
It's coming, they're gonna
Yeah,
be
it
here, so
won't
do we spread them
stay.
out over, every 5 acres in the whole county, or do we let them stack up?
They'll
It's
stack
the choice,
eventually.
yeah, I mean, they're
Yeah.
gonna stack eventually, they're gonna win eventually. Even I mean, eventually the 5 acre people will win and get it cut down, and then you'll have houses facing all kinds of weird directions. Cause they'll vote in the right people, they'll win eventually.
Oh,
To me, just I'm in agreement with y'all 100% in that I feel like we need to be giving people access and use of their land, but it's like you have to strike the balance of how do I help Farmer Joe that just wants to carve off an acre for his kid that clearly doesn't need 50 feet to get to it, but how do you prevent people from exploiting that and then doing this deal and building 66 lots with nothing, with no infrastructure, or nothing
Can you
like that.
change, this may be a stupid question, but I remember when the guy brought in the zoning here, I was at the meetings and stuff, and the last thing he said, this is not the Bible, this is y'all's book, you can change it as you need. Can you not change the language to where for individual, for single-family dwelling, 25 foot would be allowed, and if it was gonna be multi-homes or whatever, you keep the 50-foot rule in place. But the individual person that's gonna use this for a single-family dwelling, you know, I don't know why, I mean, very little has changed in that code book since they implemented it.
Well, I think to that point, you know, like, something that we had also suggested at the last meeting was, you know, there are lots of record. There are situations in the county where they're not able to meet that 50-foot requirement. So in those cases, you should be able to get down to 25 feet to allow the people to be able to use their property. But wherever it is possible, they should have to meet the requirement that's already here,
But
if
if
it's
you want-
possible.
If he wants to give his son an acre, he don't wanna give him the whole 50 foot, and you would wanna cut off.
You give him a
25.
lot on the road, you know?
He wants to build back.
So there again is
He
an
wants to build near the
example of one of
waterfalls,
those,
which is
large lot subdivisions.
1,000 feet off the road, I don't want to give 50 foot, 1,000 feet.
Yeah, that's a lot of land.
That's a lot of land.
So
And 25 foot will get him there.
in this case, this was one that was approved by the Rutherford County Commission, and it had one 50-foot easement. And this, instead of going to 5, this actually just went to 4. But it's just an example of how that can work. And it's still, you know, there again, even though they were 5 acres or larger, it still had to meet all the requirements. It still had to go through planning commission approval.
Rutherford County's kind of starting to take a dim view of the flag lots. Am I not right about that? They're doing away with that.
And Bedford County's done away with them altogether.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Do what? They do.
No, it's 100
how
foot
did
lot
they
width.
do away with them?
They made your lot width go from 50 foot of frontage to 100 feet of frontage. And then they make you stagger your side setbacks to where there cannot be a house behind another house. If you've got a house at the road, wherever the side of that house is would be the side setback for the lot in the back, to where you couldn't put houses directly behind. They might be kind of right in line, but you wouldn't be looking right in the back door of somebody. You'd be looking at.
See, that just
You
sounds like
still do
stealing
a
people's
flag
rights
lot.
to me.
The pole would be 100
That's like
foot wide
people
instead
buy
of
it,
50.
they pay the taxes, they pay their interest. It sounds like stealing rights away from people. I'm not here to steal people's rights, I'm here to protect them.
Yeah, but it costs it.
The problem is, nobody wants nothing to change really, but whether we like it or not, growth is coming to our area. And, you know, and land is becoming more scarce and more scarce, and, you know, it just, to me, I mean, I'm not one of these that wanna see Manchester turn into Murfreesboro. I mean, we've got 16 acres in Cambridge. It started out a little old gravel country setting there, and everybody that moved out there bought 5 acres or more and built nice houses. It really didn't cost the county anything to build that. And the tax revenue generated, you know, more than it pays for them to tar and chip it every
Nick, I'm sorry, Nick. I'm sorry, Jimmy, you had the floor and you were getting ready to say something. I was gonna,
Oh, no,
don't tell me
I
you're
wonder
through,
if
don't tell me you're
anybody else
through.
got any pros and cons?
Yeah, we're willing to
From the
listen to
crowd.
anyone. Anybody else back there?
I mean, I see the pros and cons in all of it. Personally, and y'all were talking about one of the lots of record, that was me. That went through the process, was happy to do it, was happy the county allowed me the opportunity to do it, to go, to be denied and to be able to do it. I was thankful for that, because it was a path forward. And Jimmy was asking why, well, why was because there was no other alternative. The code is what the code is, and they can't change the code to accommodate me or anybody else. So there's a process that's in place that has to be followed, and that's why. I mean, that's the answer to your question, is because that's what's written, that's what the code says. And that's what we did, and like I said, I appreciate the process and what was done and what was allowed to be done there. I also see Rodney's point with, people being able to do what they can to, carve off land for their family. I'm one of those as well, and I understand that. The thing that y'all probably don't see as much as what Nick and I see is the phone calls we get are not from the people wanting to carve off for their family members. It's the people that are wanting to make the 5-acre tracts into 5 parcels. And they're wanting to do that over and over and over, and they're not wanting to meet any stormwater requirement. And I know Benton, I do a lot with Benton, and we look at different places that have been developed like this. And Nick can tell you, he did the divisions on them, but you end up with a piece of land that didn't have any houses on it, and now, out there Rock Hill, what's that one side of the road got where Benton's having drainage problems?
On Norton Road, if you look at all those new houses on the east side of the road, where there wasn't anything required to be put in as far as drainage, it's causing drainage issues and washing the road out, and causing Benton a bunch of headaches.
But those were slipped through with what Nick was talking about, and that's one example. There's a lot of those examples where there were no houses, and now all of a sudden there's 20 houses, and that without stormwater, detention and things like that, it does cause an issue downstream, and it does cause an issue in the roads and the ditches and flooding issues. So, but honestly, those are the calls that when Nick is saying he'd be happy to divide it, probably 8 or 9 out of 10 are going to be people that want him to divide it, to turn it real quick, and it's not family members, it is, so I see your point with it, and I also see the other point,
But then you have to punish the family members because you're scared of that.
It is, I mean, I see both sides of it, and that's what I'm saying, and they're both real sides, the family members do want to give property to their children, that's a real thing, and I'm one of those. And then, like I said, there are other people that just want to divide it. In Jimmy's case, though, y'all have already got the solution for that, because it's a lot of record, and a lot of record is a lot of record, but, so the design standard for a lot of record is not the same as a design standard for something new. Dennis made a good point about, the property, you've got the width in the back of the property, but maybe not in the front, so, and we know of those cases. We know of subdivisions that can't be developed because they have a 40-foot stem into the parcel that's 100 acres behind it. So, in those cases, it would be better to have a 40-foot stem, but that is an existing, that's an existing condition as well, but it has to be developed, so that's even a new twist. It's not now a lot of record, you'd have to allow the 40-foot to be able to get back to that to develop. So, it's a very complicated, issue and process, and there is a lot to think about. And I agree, I know Kurt and I have talked about this a number of times with the zoning ordinance. There's a lot of things in there. Of course, Kurt didn't write any of it. And his department has been very, very good to work they try to find ways to help you do what you wanna do, not keep you from doing it. But they are bound to what's written, and they don't have the flexibility or authority to do anything other than that. So it is a very complex, thing that we're discussing tonight. But it's all important. I mean, everything that's being discussed and every input that everybody has is sincere and important. And so I'm glad it's being discussed.
For the benefit of the listening audience, that was the voice of Kenny Sadler.
I'd like to
And
say-
he personally had to come before the Board of Zoning Appeals for a variance because of property that he had that only had, what, 30 or 35
It's a
foot?
30-foot right of way.
30-foot right-of-way. So he did have a pathway to get done what he needed to do. But that was because it was lots of record.
And that's exactly the pathway you explained to Jimmy a while ago.
Yes, he did. That one instance.
Yeah.
Jimmy has run into the 25-foot, the 50-foot easement and all of, that's just his newest case that he could
Right.
associate with the 50-foot rule. But he, along with Nick and Kenny Sadler, they've all have encountered the problems of trying to comply with the 50-foot easement.
I do like that he brought up that Kurt and Cindy have absolutely nothing to do with any of these rules, though they do face the public and probably catch the brunt of the.
Oh, yeah.
of the-
Correct.
But anybody listening, they have nothing to do with it. They have rules they have to follow. All that comes down to us and the commission, but.
I'm
they
gonna
do a-
take-
They do a
And the
fantastic
state.
job.
I'm gonna take Rodney one step farther. When you get appointed to the planning commission, your job is to interpret this book. We also can change it if we desire.
Only with the full legislative body's
That's
blessing.
exactly right.
That's right.
There's a process that we have to go through.
It's not an overnight.
Is there any more discussion about this, or does somebody want to call for a vote, or does somebody want to put it off, or what do you want to do?
Hey, Steve, can I make a comment?
Yes,
Since everybody else got to talk, I thought I might as well talk.
this is Kevin Sapp.
I'm the chairman of the BZA, but I just wanted to, I guess maybe my age is showing, but what he's talking about, Ron Cooper, I was on the county commission whenever we put together the zoning regulations. And that was one of the things he said was very wise, but a couple other things he mentioned, just for your help, because I was in your position on the planning commission too, when we were writing that zoning stuff, or we weren't really writing it, we were reviewing it. But you're talking about development in this area. I really am anti this mega site because it will change Coffee County forever. But you still have authority on your planning commission to control the growth. And I think that's important because he told us, he said, if you looked at what happened over at Spring Hill and what happened in that county, the tax rate went through the roof over there. Warren County was another example. Tax rate went through the roof whenever you put these big corporations in there. So that part of it is not necessary. Things don't necessarily cost for free forever because development and things cost taxes to go up. And you can go look at the tax rates and you'll kind of see
Right.
that. So I guess that's, I would say, you all, I don't disagree with anything you all were saying, but keep that in the back of your mind that, and I heard this the other night at the soil conservation meeting, every hour, 10 acres goes away from farmland. So do we really want to continue to have an agricultural community? Do we still want to eat? Or do we just want to build houses and put people in places like that? So, and I'm not anti-development. I got that. We need to have development. But those 5-acre tracts, those are in the middle usually of a nice piece of farmland. That used to grow corn and soybeans and things like that. And I'm not a farmer, okay? But, so I guess that's one thing, I was there, but the other thing he said, the worst thing you can have is to have no zoning. And that's what kind of got all the errors and the things that were put in there, that you need to pass something. And so the county commission acted and passed the zoning in, was it 2000 or 19?
201.
201.
And we passed it, and we had some zoning, because we had none before that. Everybody could do whatever they wanted to do. And so, you can criticize me or the people back there, but we did it because we needed to have something. And yes, it can be amended, and it can be made better, and it can be changed for the better, and that's something that the commission has not, even when I was there, has been really wanted to do that, to get in there to make those modifications, because we know there's errors in there, there's things that don't make sense, and stuff like that. So, anyway, I appreciate what y'all do, because I've been in your position too, but it's not just all black and white, as far as why we have zoning and what it will do for the county and what it can do.
Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate that. Do you have something you want to say, Fran? I'm not a fan of growth either. I know it's gonna happen. I think
Yeah.
everybody knows it's gonna happen. And it just didn't happen in the last 2 years. It's been happening for the last 5. The land prices have really jumped in the last 2 or 3 years. Everybody knows that. I want growth, but I want it to be good, common sense growth.
To be controlled.
And and Kevin hit it right on the head when he said it needs to be controlled growth.
Rutherford County, they can't keep up with the schools. Their growth is just out of hand. They owe $750 million for schools now. There is such a debt in that county. And they think more people bring in more money. But the mayor told me, he said every house that comes in, and they even have, the tax, the building, it's not high enough. It costs the county money every time somebody moves in.
I want to quote Bobby Bryan, who was one of the best commissioners that we've ever had serve in the county commission. For every dollar of growth, you have $1.40 of expense to that growth. Don't forget that. So, there's a lot of money to make up there.
And you'll pay.
Yeah.
Everybody else
Everybody will pay. All right, I'm gonna go back, Dennis, you have something you want to say?
I personally think we all need to absorb some more of this, what we've heard tonight.
Yeah.
I'm not prepared to make any motion.
Does anybody have a problem with continuing this at maybe the next meeting? I think that's the best way to do it, don't you?
Yeah, we talked about having a work session and all that, but
I
like
don't think
tonight,
so.
we had a very light agenda load, and there was nothing wrong with everybody getting to talk about this, and everybody getting a feel for what needs to happen. So, yeah, I like that idea.
Anybody else have anything in the audience to say? Anybody up here? You know what I'd like to have is a motion to adjourn.
Sammy, do it.
So moved.
Do I have a second? I got everybody's second.
Everybody did. I
You can
turned
pick
mine
one,
off
you can pick one to